We've been talking with the CEO of Hemlane for years now, Dana Dumford. Lots of you have taken the look at Hemlane and are using it. I actually did get a question the other day I thought we should actually dig into, and is, hey, I know Hemlane can help me if I'm self-managing my local properties, but heck, can Hemlane help me do remote management? Say I live in California and my rentals are in Ohio. Can I use Hemlane to do all self-management, or do I need to also hire a property manager? I thought there was nobody better to ask than Dana Dumford herself. Dana, what say you? Can you use Hemlane to do remote management?
The short answer is yes, but I want to actually take a step back and kind of give you some insights into some interesting trends with traditional property managers and what they're doing. And so I'm huge on education. I love to learn. I love podcasts. I love books. And I also just love taking courses. And so I recently was going into one of those that is for property managers. And this is for a traditional property manager who you hire, who is local, to manage your rental properties. And basically, the course was teaching them and was showing so many examples of successful property managers who had grown their portfolio. And it basically taught them you actually don't have to be in that city. So you can expand your own portfolio, and you need one good operator on the ground who can do certain things for you. And those things will be such as meeting with a client. Sometimes it's very hard to find someone who can do handiwork as well as that. But a good handyman there as well. So it might be two people, might be one. Then that person also knows how to do inspections, showings if they need to, or put the lockbox on. But what was really interesting about the course that I recently took was that throughout that entire process, there was one thing that I realized. They are basically building Hemlane and will we promote to the landlord, but promoting it to a property manager to do. And that was actually really insightful to me, because that basically told me, hey, we're all onto something. If a property manager can remotely manage the properties, why can't you as a landlord remotely manage your properties? And there's a good reason that you would hire a property manager. One is if you don't want to get educated on everything going on, keep up to date with, rental ordinances, etc. And so it's great to hire a manager, and I'm a huge proponent of it. But on the flip side, it's like, hey, if you do just a little bit of education and you follow a really structured process, you can actually do what that course is doing, because you essentially can manage majority of it 80% remotely. That's everything from rent collection, troubleshooting, dispatching service professionals, lease renewals, even leases, all of that stuff, the qualifications you can do from anywhere. Where you really need a human is when someone needs to go out to the property to do a turnover, to install a self-guided tour lockbox, or to do showings. It depends on your property. Self-guided tours aren't for all properties. And then also to go ahead and do any of the actual work that's needed in the house, everything from the inspection to actual work that needs to happen. But it's interesting because you as a landlord, thanks to Zoom, thanks to FaceTime, there's a lot you can get by video. Yeah. And meeting someone like this. And the reason I bring that up is there's a lot of anxiety that comes from a landlord of, I'm not there, what's going on? And, for me with my own personal rental properties, I don't have that anxiety. And the reason I don't have that anxiety is I actually meet the tenants face to face. I'm not scared to hide who I am. I'm not a slumlord, right? From that perspective. Of course, I have properties in the LLC. I'm a managing member of it. But I do meet face-to-face like this, just via video, before the tenant moves in, just to walk them through what is expected. Our leasing coordinators do that as well for you, but you also have the option to meet with them. And then also any vendor that I have on site, if it's a big project, I'm going to have them on video showing me things. And I find that makes me feel like I'm there, right? And then you can go out and visit the property if you're in town. But that's on, when it's convenient for you, when you're there, when you decide to visit. You don't physically have to live there. And so I think the short answer is yes. And then also building that team and knowing who's your local support is going to be an important equation to it. And I've seen a lot of investors. It's interesting. Every time I ask an investor, why did you invest in this city? Why did you invest in this city? A lot of it's actually emotional, where they're like, hey, I've got, well, my, my cousin lives there, and my, sister lives there, whoever it may be, or I grew up there, but then I moved to California. And so in those cases, it's even easier because you've got someone you can call and be like, hey, can you go over and check on it? And then if you're more strategic, which is what I think, Michael, you and I promote, of like, actually look at the markets, look at the trends, make a decision, and then double down on that area, because you can build up your team and double down on it. From that perspective, I've found that you can build that team yourself just by talking to people on the phone. And once you find a really good handyman, an inspector, there's great inspectors out there. We've partner with a couple of apps that like actually have the inspectors, licensed inspectors. We always use licensed inspectors. You could potentially get away with someone else doing the inspections. That's a whole nother topic. But I think once you build up that list, you will find it's easier than you expected to manage your properties. And then I'll tell you a story. There is a owner who uses Hemlane I was just talking to the other day, and she's got 22 rental properties. And she lives a flight's distance away from those. So, yeah, I mean, she could drive to them, but I think it's about a 10-hour drive.
Yeah.
And she had said, Dina, it is shocking to me, because I recommend to every landlord, why don't you just use Hemlane? Just use it. You'll have full transparency. She said, it is so interesting to me and shocking to me that they all say, oh, but I physically need to be there, or I physically need someone there. And it's almost like this myth buster, where she's like, well, I do have someone there. I've got my handyman on, speed dial if I want, even through Hemlane, just shoot out the work order to him via text message. But she's like, it's such to me, an interesting point that this has mentally been put into people's heads, that they are the one who has to be there. And yes, someone needs to be there. You physically need someone to do the work on the property, but that doesn't need to be you.
Yeah, I think you're almost over the target. I think it's a little bit more than that. It has to be someone. I agree. It doesn't have to be you, but it has to be someone you trust. And that's the wrinkle in this that I think a lot of landlords kind of miss, because historically speaking, I've been talking to people investing out of state for 20 plus years. And I've often told them, and you've probably heard me say this on past videos, is, invest somewhere where you have history or relationships, right? The old joke was, hey, if that person's going to come to your funeral, right, they're going to tell you the truth, right? That was always my standard. Yeah. It's always my standard with out-of-state investing. But what Hemlane provides is something that, in my opinion, doesn't really exist, which is awesome. You actively go out and look for, repair coordinators and handyman. You actively go out and look for leasing agents, and you're qualifying them, right? You quote unquote fire the bad performers. You remove them from the system. So you're doing legwork for landlords who maybe want to invest in a city because of the return, that they don't have relationships. In the past, I've always been like, dude, that's hard. That's hard. You don't know anybody. You're going to be trusting people. That's hard. It's not impossible. It's just hard. I think what Hemlane gives is it makes it a lot easier to build that first circle of trust.
Yeah. And trust is built over time. So for example, with any service professional that we use for the first time, that's where you have no trust, and you're going to be on them very really like, hey, leasing agent, go out with whoever you have right on the ground. But the more and more you work with someone, the more you build up a relationship. And that's everyone from your HVAC specialist to who's doing the inspections. And it gets built over time, to your point. And for us, our hope is like, hey, we have built up that network, but it's over time. There's reviews of these folks. We're constantly reviewing them and building that relationship for you on the ground. And yeah, so I think from that perspective, it's one of those things that will continue to, especially with remote work, be something that just becomes the industry standard, that you are remote and you are managing from a distance. But I think you're right. The trust is really important. And what you've seen with technology over time is tech platforms used to just give you everything. This is like 2015. If you look at it, it was this marketplace approach where it was, hey, we'll give you every handyman, we'll give you every leasing agent, we'll give you every general contractor in the area. And I think the consumers today are over that. They're like, I don't want everyone. I just want the best for my property, the best price, at the like best quality, right? There's a balance there. You're not going to get the best price and the best quality. There's a balance, but I just want the best for me. I don't want to have to shift through 5,000 people and figure out who is the best. And so I think that's where, when you get to 2020 and the future, is that's really where tech is going, is no, we're just going to give you what is the best, not everything. And that's building that up, I think, also for service professionals and for your local boots on the ground, them having that presence, but also having enough of their reputation built up online will be really important.
That, and again, this trust, Hemlane is kind of the Swiss Army knife for, if you're doing out-of-state investing in a city you don't have a relationship. Because I'm just thinking about being that person. It's a 10-hour flight in your example, 22 units. That's scary and risky if you don't have a vehicle like Hemlane that's already had 100 units in the area and has got 75 work orders, and it's got a 3 5-star this and that. There's just trust by knowing, because Hemlane is so big, 24,000 units or something crazy like that.
Yeah, 28,000.
Oh, just 28. Oh. But yeah, I mean, 28,000 units, that means you're probably doing thousands of work orders a month, right? It's just how the system works. And that repetition, that depth of knowledge, again, as a new landlord, I won't trust, Mark immediately. But if I can go look that Mark has been working with Hemlane for 2.5 years and has done 76 work orders and has got a 4.8 review, it's at least a start. And then in the beginning, to your example of 22 units, maybe I'm FaceTiming with Mark as he walks through it. And then I get Mark's bid. And then, oh, by the way, Mark delivers on time, on budget. And, oh, by the way, maybe Mark went deeper and, oh, you know what? I found this one thing, but he told me about it, right?
Exactly.
That trust factor is going to be faster. And so I think Hemlane has it. And it's really, it's not only the, up to date and the financials and advertising, which is all awesome. It's that circle of trusted boots on the ground. That's the wrinkle that I don't think you've hit enough, that needs to get hit harder, because more people need to realize Hemlane empowers me to quicker and less risky, not risk less, but less risky, go to the markets I don't have relationships. That's game changer.
Yeah. And the other thing is any vendor who's on our platform, so any service professional, we don't take a cut of what they make. And so our goal is really to say, hey, if something goes wrong, like they fix the washing machine and it wasn't fixed, they're right back out there, right? No questions asked. And we build it over time by working with them. But the reason for that is we just want to build the best network for you. We're not looking to make money off of it. A really interesting point was the number of holiday cards we got from vendors. So this was the first year where we were getting their family photos, like a lot of them. Like we would get like 1 or 2 in past years, but we were getting their family photos with their family. And that actually shows me that we have built a personal relationship with these, and they're signing, thanks so much for partnering with us. And so I think that's a really good sign of like, hey, they know who we are. We do have a good impact on them. And by impact, I mean, if we're the ones they're sending Christmas cards to, it means they want to continue to be doing business, obviously, with us. But we have a strong enough presence with them that it matters, that our customers matter to them, and they're going to want to keep them happy, because if our customers are not happy, we're not happy with them. And so I think that all of that is a good thing and a positive trend that I saw this year too.
Yeah, I would definitely double click up the investment on advertising, and really, as we talk about this, Hemlane could be seen as the secret weapon to out-of-state investing. Because again, where does out-of-state investing go wrong? It's boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And the only answer to boots on the ground is, network with local RIAs, ask for referrals. It's all time consuming. You're not sure if you're getting the A players. Maybe you're getting the B players. And where I've seen out-of-state investing go boom is boots on the ground take advantage of you. And Hemlane's 28,000 units and growing means that you're going to keep the good providers. You're going to weed out the bad ones. And they're going to be incented to keep you happy because you're going to be, 50% of their business. You go from 28,000 to 31,000 to 34,000. So I think you've got to call Hemlane the secret weapon to out-of-state investing. I'd go hard on that.
Put it right on our homepage. I love it, Michael.
I would do something crazy like that because I don't think you've hit that hard enough. I certainly haven't thought about it this way. But I would go hard.
Great. I love it.
Okay.
I couldn't agree more. I'm excited for the future because the list and the vendors only get better over time, right? As
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, you become that flywheel goes. So if somebody wanted to test Hemlane or play with Hemlane for out-of-state investing, where are they going?
Yeah, you can go to Hemlane, HEMLANE.com, and just mention one rental at a time because you do get 20% off your first year.
Folks, give it a shot. There's a trial. There's a free version. Go to their resources tab. Look for local laws. You have no idea how much investment Hemlane makes in making you a more knowledgeable and better landlord, especially for out of state. Dana, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.